I want to tell you something that changed everything for me, and I promise you, it will shake the very foundation of how you think about money. Right now, in this exact moment, your future self is trying to send you wealth, but you keep turning it away. You don't mean to. You're not doing it on purpose. But every single day, you reject the very abundance that's rushing toward you like a river, and I'm going to show you how to stop doing that in the next 60 seconds. Listen closely. The universe is not withholding anything from you. Money is not scarce. Opportunity is not limited. The only thing standing between you and unimaginable prosperity is a tiny, invisible wall you built in your own mind, and you don't even know it's there. But your future self, the version of you living 6 months from now, 1 year from now, that person already knows the truth. That version of you has already received everything you're asking for right now. The question is, will you let them give it to you? I spent years watching people pray for money while simultaneously pushing it away with both hands. They'd come to me and say, "I'm doing everything right. I'm working hard. I'm being positive. Why isn't anything changing?" And every single time, when I looked closer, I could see it. They were speaking lack. They were imaging poverty. They were treating their future like a prison sentence instead of a promise. Their words said yes, but their consciousness screamed no, and the universe can only give you what you truly accept. So, here's what I learned, and this is the part that's going to sound strange, but stay with me because it works every single time. Your future is not something far away. It's not waiting for you somewhere down a long road. Your future is happening right now, simultaneously, in another dimension of consciousness. The version of you who already has the money, who already lives in abundance, who already walks in financial freedom, that person exists right now. And they're reaching back through time, trying to hand you everything you need. But you have to open your hands. You have to stop clenching your fists around your current circumstances and open yourself to receive what's already yours. I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to speak to your future self, how to accept the wealth they're offering you, and how to collapse time itself so that what seems months or years away arrives in your life within days. This isn't about working harder. This isn't about positive thinking or vision boards or any of that surface-level stuff. This is about understanding the actual spiritual law that governs prosperity and then wielding it with precision and faith. Are you ready? Because once you see this, you can't unsee it, and your relationship with money will never be the same again. Let me start by telling you about a woman I once knew who came to me absolutely desperate. She was a talented artist, truly gifted, but she couldn't sell her work no matter what she tried. She'd go to galleries and they'd turn her away. She'd price her paintings low, thinking that would help, and still nothing. She was living in a tiny room, eating 1 meal a day, and every night she'd pray, "God, please send me money. Please let someone buy my art. Please help me survive." And every morning, she'd wake up to the same poverty, the same rejection, the same crushing disappointment. When she sat in front of me, I could feel the heaviness around her like a thick fog. So I asked her a simple question. I said, "Tell me, when you imagine your future, what do you see?" And she looked at me with these tired eyes and said, "I see myself still struggling. I see myself still poor. I see myself working and never getting anywhere, because that's reality. That's what's actually happening." And right there, I saw the whole problem. She was teaching her future self to be poor. Every single day, with her thoughts and her words and her mental pictures, she was instructing the universe to keep her exactly where she was. She was rejecting abundance before it could even reach her. Her future self, the one who could be wealthy and successful and celebrated, was trying to send her opportunities, but she kept saying, "No, that's not for me, that's not realistic. I'm not that kind of person." So I told her something that shocked her. I said, "You need to stop praying for money and start accepting it. There's a difference. Prayer without acceptance is just begging. But acceptance is a command. Acceptance says, 'This is already mine, I receive it now.' Your future self is wealthy. She's already sold those paintings. She's already living in abundance. You need to become her right now, in this moment, in your consciousness. You need to feel what she feels, speak what she speaks, and act as she would act. Not someday. Today." She looked at me like I was crazy. But she was desperate enough to try. So I taught her the 60-second practice, the exact one I'm about to teach you. And I told her to do it every single morning and every single night without fail. No matter what her circumstances looked like, no matter how much fear tried to creep in. Just 60 seconds of pure acceptance, of speaking directly to her future self and receiving the abundance that was already hers. 3 days later, a woman walked into a cafe where she was sitting, saw one of her small sketches she'd been doodling on a napkin, and offered her $200 for it on the spot. 1 week after that, a gallery owner who had rejected her before suddenly called and said they'd had a cancellation and wanted to feature her work. Within a month, she'd sold more paintings than she had in the previous 2 years combined. Within 6 months, she moved into a beautiful apartment and was traveling to art shows across the country. What changed? Not her talent, not her circumstances, not the economy or the art market or anything external. What changed was her consciousness. She stopped teaching her future self to be poor and started teaching her future self to be wealthy. She stopped rejecting abundance and started accepting it. And the moment she made that shift internally, everything shifted externally. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds too simple. That sounds too easy. How can 60 seconds change anything? But here's what you need to understand about how the universe actually works. The spiritual realm doesn't operate on time the way we do. In consciousness, in the realm of spirit, everything exists right now. Your past, your present, your future, they're all happening simultaneously. The only thing that makes them seem separate is your perception, your focus, your awareness. When you worry about the future, you're not just thinking about something far away. You're actually creating it. You're speaking it into existence. You're teaching it what to become. And if you're constantly imagining a future of struggle, of lack, of barely getting by, then that's exactly what you're commanding the universe to deliver. Your future self hears you loud and clear, and they become exactly what you tell them to be. But the opposite is also true. When you speak to your future self with confidence, with acceptance, with absolute knowing that they are wealthy and abundant and free, you're commanding a completely different reality into being. You're instructing the universe to deliver prosperity. You're opening the channel for money to flow. You're removing every invisible barrier you've built, and suddenly the abundance that was always there, always trying to reach you, comes flooding in. This is not wishful thinking. This is not just being positive or hopeful. This is actual spiritual law. As within, so without. As above, so below. What you accept in consciousness must manifest in form. It has to. It's not a maybe. It's not a hope. It's a law, as reliable as gravity. The problem is, most people don't actually accept abundance in their consciousness. They hope for it, they wish for it, they beg for it, but they don't command it. They don't receive it with their whole being. I remember watching a man turn down a job opportunity because he said it seemed too good to be true. Someone offered him exactly what he'd been asking for: more money, better hours, work he actually enjoyed, and his first instinct was suspicion. Why would they offer me this? What's the catch? I'm not qualified enough. This will probably fall through. And guess what happened? It did fall through. Not because it was too good to be true, but because he rejected it in his consciousness before it could fully manifest. He taught his future self that he wasn't worthy of good things, and the universe said, "All right, your wish is my command." That's the power you have, and that's the responsibility you carry. You are not a victim of your circumstances, you are the creator of them. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every image you hold in your mind, you're instructing your future self on what to become. You're either accepting abundance or rejecting it. You're either opening the door or slamming it shut, and most people, tragically, spend their entire lives slamming the door and then wondering why nothing good ever comes through. But not you, not anymore, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the exact 60-second practice that will reprogram your entire relationship with money and abundance. This is the same practice that transformed that artist's life. The same practice that's brought unexpected checks, surprise opportunities, and miraculous provision to hundreds of people I've worked with. The same practice that, if you actually do it, will begin shifting your reality within days, not weeks, not months, days. But before I give you the practice, you need to understand 3 fundamental truths about money and consciousness. These are non-negotiable. These are the foundation. If you don't get these, the practice won't work, or it'll work weakly, inconsistently. But when you understand these 3 truths deep in your bones, the practice becomes unstoppable. The first truth is this: money is energy, not paper. It's not coins or numbers in a bank account. It's a current, a flow, a form of divine substance that moves through the universe constantly. It's always circulating, always available, always seeking channels to flow through. When you understand that money is energy, you stop treating it like a scarce resource that has to be hoarded or fought for. Instead, you become a channel. You open yourself. You let it flow to you and through you, and the more you let it flow, the more comes. Most people block the flow without realizing it. They say things like, "I can't afford that," or "money is so hard to make," or "rich people are greedy," and every single one of those statements is a dam. It's a barrier. It's a sign that says, "Money, stay away from me. I don't trust you. I don't like you. I'm afraid of you." And money, being energy, obeys. It goes where it's welcomed, where it's celebrated, where it's expected. It flows toward consciousness that accepts it and away from consciousness that rejects it. The second truth is that your words create your reality. Not just influence it, create it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Your words are not just sounds coming out of your mouth. They're vibrations, they're commands, they're seeds that you plant in the invisible realm, and those seeds must, by spiritual law, produce fruit in the visible realm. When you say, "I'm broke," you're not just describing your current situation, you're commanding more brokenness to come. When you say, "I'm always struggling," you're guaranteeing that struggle continues. But when you begin to speak as your future self speaks, when you say things like, "I am abundantly supplied, money flows to me easily, I am grateful for my ever-increasing prosperity," you're planting completely different seeds. You're commanding a completely different reality. And here's the key: you don't have to see the money yet to speak this way. In fact, you have to speak this way first, before you see it. That's the whole point. Your words create the reality. The reality doesn't create your words. I had a student who was buried in debt, couldn't even afford groceries some weeks, and I told her to start saying every morning, "I am debt-free and financially abundant." She said, "But that's a lie. I'm not debt-free." And I told her, in your current circumstances, no. But in your consciousness, in your future self, yes. You're speaking to what's already true in the spiritual realm, and you're commanding it to manifest in the physical realm. Stop letting your current circumstances dictate your words. Let your words dictate your future circumstances. She did it. She felt ridiculous at first, like she was lying to herself, but she kept going. And within weeks, unexpected money started showing up. An old friend paid back a loan she'd forgotten about. Her employer gave her a bonus she wasn't expecting. She found an error in her bank account that was actually in her favor for once. Small things at first, then bigger things. Within a year, her debt was completely gone, and she had savings for the first time in her adult life. The third truth is the one people resist the most, but it's the most important. Your future already exists. It's not something you're moving toward. It's something that already is, and you're simply catching up to it in consciousness. Think of it like a movie that's already been filmed. The ending already exists. The middle already exists. All the scenes are already complete. You're just watching it unfold. Like flipping through a photo album where every picture was already taken, you're just turning the pages. This is why faith feels so different from hope. Hope says, "Maybe it'll work out." Faith says, "It's already done. I'm just waiting for my eyes to catch up with what my spirit already knows." I knew someone once who needed to move apartments. Desperate situation, lease ending, no money for a deposit, no leads. But instead of spiraling into panic, she did something strange. She started packing, not frantically, methodically, folding clothes, wrapping dishes, labeling boxes. Her roommate thought she'd lost her mind. "Where are you even going?" She smiled and said, "I don't know yet, but the apartment is already arranged. I'm just getting ready." 3 days later, a friend of a friend called out of nowhere. A tenant had suddenly broken their lease. Beautiful place. Move-in ready, no deposit needed. The boxes were already packed. Now here's what's important. She didn't pack because she was trying to manipulate the universe. She packed because she genuinely saw it as done. Her actions were the natural response to an inner conviction. That's the difference. When you're pretending or forcing, there's tension in it. When you know, there's ease. Your body relaxes. Your movements become almost casual, because what's there to stress about? It's handled. Think about how you act when you know someone's coming over for dinner. You set the table, you prepare the food, you light the candles. You don't sit there chewing your nails, wondering if they'll show up. You received the RSVP. The knowing changes everything. It shifts you from anxiety to preparation, from begging to receiving. This is living from the end, not visualizing the end while standing in the beginning, actually living from the end, thinking from it, feeling from it, acting from it. And here's what happens when you truly live from the end. The middle stops being a test and starts being a ceremony. The waiting stops feeling like torture and starts feeling like a sacred procession. You're not crawling toward your desire, you're walking a path that's already laid out. Each step an inevitability, each moment just another scene in a play that's already been written. You see, most people are trying to make things happen. They're pushing, forcing, strategizing, thinking if they just manipulate the right circumstances, pull the right strings, convince the right people, they'll finally get what they want. But that's exhausting. That's resistance dressed up as action. When you live from the end, you don't make things happen. You allow them to happen. You become a channel, not a dam. You stop blocking your own good with doubt and fear and micromanagement. I remember a woman who came to me desperate for work. She'd been unemployed for months, sending out hundreds of applications, hearing nothing back. She was frantic, convinced she needed to apply to more places, rewrite her resume for the 1,000th time, network harder, do times something asterisk. I told her, stop, you're operating from lack. Every application you send out screaming, please hire me, I'm desperate, is just magnetizing more rejection. Instead, see yourself already employed, not hoping for it, times it. Walk like someone who has meaningful work. Dress like it. Feel the satisfaction of it in your bones. She resisted at first. It felt irresponsible, even reckless, to stop the frantic searching. But she tried it. She spent 1 week simply living as if she already had the perfect position. She dressed well, kept a schedule, spent her days preparing for success rather than begging for opportunity. Within 10 days, she received a call about a position she'd applied to months earlier, one she'd completely forgotten about. They'd kept her resume, and suddenly a role opened up that was exactly what she wanted. Better pay, better fit, better everything. Coincidence? Please. The universe doesn't do coincidence. It does resonance. You have to understand, your inner conviction creates outer conditions. Not sometimes, not if you're lucky. Always. It's law. The world you see is the world you are. So when you're living from the end, you're not pretending everything's fine while secretly terrified. You're not doing positive affirmations through gritted teeth. You're genuinely done with the old story. You've already moved into the new one. And here's the beautiful part. When you're truly there, you stop caring about the how and the when quite so desperately. Not because you've given up, but because you know asterisk. You know it the way you know your own name, the way you know how to breathe. There's a relaxation that comes with that kind of knowing, a divine ease that cannot be manufactured or faked. I once knew a woman who was determined to change her financial circumstances. She did everything right on paper. She affirmed. She visualized. She made vision boards. But every single day, she checked her bank account 7 times. She refreshed her email constantly, waiting for the opportunity to arrive. She felt panic every time a bill came in the mail. And one day she said to me, exhausted and frustrated, I'm doing everything you said, but nothing is working. I looked at her gently and said, you're living in the problem, not the solution. You're rehearsing lack, not abundance. Every time you check that account with fear, you're voting for poverty. Every time you panic at a bill, you're casting your ballot for limitation. She didn't like hearing that. Nobody does. But it was true. The shift happened when she decided to treat her current money, no matter how little, with respect and joy. She paid her bills with gratitude, saying, thank you that I have this to give. Money flows to me easily and constantly. She stopped the obsessive checking. She started acting times as if times she was already financially free. And you know what happened? Within 2 months, she received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative she barely knew. 3 months after that, a business idea she'd casually mentioned to a friend turned into a profitable partnership. Did the affirmations do it? Did the vision board? No. The Times Consciousness Times did it. She stopped vibrating poverty and started vibrating prosperity. She stopped living in the Times wish times and started living in the Times fact asterisk. This is what I mean when I say you must occupy the state. You must live there mentally and emotionally before it can manifest physically. The physical world is always the last to know. It's always playing catch-up to your inner world. So when you find yourself anxious, worried, obsessing over the how and the when, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, asterisk, where am I living right now? Am I living in the wish or the fulfillment? Asterisk. Because here's what happens when you get that answer wrong. You stay in perpetual preparation mode. You keep times getting ready, times to have what you want. You organize your life around the absence of it. You talk about it like it's coming. You plan for when it arrives. You dream about how different things will be once it finally shows up. And the universe looks at you and says, all right, clearly they're not ready. Clearly they still see themselves as separate from this thing. I'll keep it at arm's length until they claim it. This isn't punishment. This is time's law asterisk. You cannot receive in the future what you are not accepting now. Not because God is withholding it, not because you haven't worked hard enough, but because you're standing in the wrong room of your own consciousness. Listen carefully. Every single thing you desire already exists in the invisible realm. It's done. It's finished. It's complete. The moment you had the desire, the fulfillment was created. They are two halves of the same coin. Your job isn't to create it. Your job isn't to force it. Your job is to times accept times it, to step into the version of yourself who already has it, to live from that state. Not as pretend, not as fake it till you make it, but as spiritual fact. I knew a woman who desperately wanted to move to a beautiful home by the sea. She would drive by homes in that area every weekend. She'd collect pictures. She'd talk constantly about when I finally get there and when it happens for me. Years went by, nothing. Then one day someone asked her, why are you waiting? In your mind, why can't you live their times now, asterisk? She started to argue, started to list all the logical reasons, the money, the timing, the market, but then something shifted. She stopped visiting the neighborhood like a tourist. She started walking those streets like a resident. She'd go to the local coffee shop and chat with people, times, as if she belonged, asterisk. She'd imagine her morning routine in that space. She'd thank God for her home by the sea in present tense. Within 3 months, an opportunity appeared that was so unexpected, so perfectly aligned, it could only be described as miraculous. What changed? Not her desire, not her worthiness. Her time's state of consciousness asterisk. She stopped living in the wish. She started living in the fulfillment. And that, my dear friend, is where the power lives. Because when you live in the fulfillment, something extraordinary happens. The universe stops seeing you as someone who wants. It starts seeing you as someone who has. And it rushes to confirm that truth. I once worked with a man who came to me desperate for a business breakthrough. He'd been affirming prosperity for months, nothing. We sat together, and I asked him a simple question. When you speak your affirmations, where do you feel yourself standing? In the wanting or in the having? He paused, then admitted, in the wanting, always in the wanting. So we shifted it. Instead of money is coming to me, he began to declare, I am a channel of divine abundance. Prosperity flows through me now. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Within 3 weeks, an opportunity he'd forgotten about materialized. A contract he'd written off came through. Not because the affirmation was magic words, but because he stopped vibrating lack and started vibrating abundance. You see, your inner speech creates your outer world. What you habitually say to yourself in the privacy of your own mind becomes the blueprint the universe follows. If you're constantly saying, I hope this works, you're building hope, not certainty. If you're saying, when will it happen? You're building, waiting, not receiving. But when you shift to, it is done, something clicks into place. You're no longer begging, you're declaring. You're not asking permission from the universe. You're claiming what's already yours in the invisible. And here's what so many miss. The invisible is more real than the visible. What you can see with your eyes is just the shadow of what exists in the realm of spirit. That's where creation happens. That's where your word has power. So when you speak, speak as though you're addressing the very substance of creation itself, because you are. You're not talking to the walls, you're not talking to yourself. You're speaking to the intelligent, responsive, creative force that turns thought into form. And it's listening. Oh, it's always listening. Every word you speak, every image you hold, every feeling you generate, it's all being recorded and reproduced in your experience. Not someday, right now. This very moment. Because when you step into this awareness, when you truly know that prosperity is your divine inheritance, something extraordinary happens. The universe begins to rearrange itself around your consciousness. I've watched this happen countless times. A woman comes to me, worried about money, speaking words of lack and limitation. I teach her the game. I show her how to speak the word. Within weeks, sometimes days, opportunities appear seemingly out of nowhere. But here's what most people miss. The opportunities were always there. The abundance was always present. What changed wasn't the universe. What changed was her consciousness. What changed was her vision. She stopped looking at what was missing and started seeing what was present. She stopped declaring poverty and started claiming her divine supply. This is the great secret that mystifies the world. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you are in consciousness of lack, you'll magnetize situations that confirm that lack. If you are in consciousness of abundance, you'll magnetize prosperity from every direction. But I've tried affirmations, you might say. I've said the words, and nothing changed. Ah, but did you believe the words? Did you feel the truth of them in your bones? Or were you just repeating empty phrases while your heart whispered, "This will never work"? Because the universe doesn't respond to your words alone. It responds to the vibration beneath your words. It responds to your faith or your doubt. I remember a man who came to me, declaring prosperity morning and night. Beautiful affirmations, perfect words. Yet his circumstances grew worse, not better. "Why isn't it working?" he demanded. I watched him as he spoke. I listened to the tremor in his voice, the fear beneath his declarations. "You're speaking prosperity with your lips?" I told him, "but cursing it with your heart. You're declaring abundance while believing in lack, and the universe always honors your deepest belief." He was shocked. He hadn't realized how deeply the roots of poverty thinking had penetrated his consciousness. So we worked differently. Instead of trying to convince himself of prosperity, we began to recognize it. We looked for evidence of supply that already existed. The roof over his head, the food in his cupboard, the gift from a friend, the unexpected refund. Small things, but real things. And as he began to recognize the abundance already present, as he gave thanks for what he had, something shifted in his consciousness. The affirmations became real. The words had power because they were rooted in recognition, not desperation. Within 2 months, his income had tripled. I've seen this pattern over and over. When you stop begging and start recognizing, everything shifts. The universe doesn't respond to pleading, it responds to conviction. There was a woman who came to me exhausted from years of affirming prosperity while feeling poor. She'd say the words, but inside, she was calculating how many days until rent was due. Her affirmations were like putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling foundation. I told her what I'm telling you now. You cannot fool the subconscious mind. It knows what you truly believe, and what you truly believe is what manifests. So we started differently. Instead of declaring what she wanted, we began recognizing what was already true in the spiritual realm. Not someday. Not if she was good enough. Now. Divine abundance is my natural state, she would say. Not as a wish, as a fact. I am already provided for in ways I cannot yet see. Not hoping, knowing. The shift was subtle at first. She stopped checking her bank account with dread. She began to feel a quiet assurance that had nothing to do with the numbers on a screen. And then, as always happens when the inner world changes, The outer world had no choice but to follow. An unexpected check arrived, then another opportunity, then a complete transformation of her financial life, not through force, but through alignment. This is the work, you see, not to create something from nothing, but to allow what already exists in spirit to take form in matter. You are not manifesting, you are revealing. And here's what most people miss. The revelation requires that you stop being divided against yourself. You cannot say one thing and believe another. You cannot affirm abundance while feeling resentful of those who have it. You cannot claim prosperity while secretly believing you don't deserve it. The inner house must be unified. Every room must be in agreement. When Jesus said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand," he was speaking spiritual law. Your consciousness must be whole, not fragmented. I've watched people sabotage themselves for years because one part of them wanted success, while another part was terrified of it. One part affirmed love, while another part believed they were unworthy of it. The inner conflict created outer chaos. The path forward is integration, bringing every thought, every belief, every hidden fear into the light of truth. This isn't comfortable work. It requires honesty that most people avoid. But it's the only work that matters. Because every external problem, every single one, is just a messenger pointing you back to something unresolved inside you. The person who betrayed you? They're showing you where you betrayed yourself first, where you ignored your intuition, where you stayed too long, where you said yes when your whole body screamed no. The money that won't come? It's revealing your hidden belief that you're not worthy of ease, that you have to struggle to deserve anything, that abundance is for other people, not you. The relationship that keeps repeating the same painful pattern? It's mirroring the relationship you have with yourself, the criticism, the abandonment, the conditional love. This is the part where most people close the book. Because this level of responsibility feels overwhelming, it's easier to stay a victim. It's simpler to believe that life just happens to you, that you're powerless, that if only they would change, everything would be fine. But you're here, which means some part of you knows the truth. Some part of you is ready to stop running. So let's be clear about what spiritual responsibility actually means. It doesn't mean you caused your trauma. It doesn't mean you're to blame for what happened to you. It means you're the only one who can heal it. You're the only one who can stop giving it power over your present. It means you stop waiting for apologies that may never come. You stop replaying conversations, trying to make people understand. You stop performing your pain, hoping someone will finally see you and save you. You save yourself, not through force or willpower, but through the simple act of returning to truth. Again and again, every time the old pattern rises, you meet it with the word. I remember working with a woman who had spent 15 years angry at her mother. 15 years of justified rage, of rehearsed grievances, of waiting for acknowledgement that never came. And one day she asked me, exhausted, "When does this end?" I said, "When you decide it ends. When you realize that holding on to this anger isn't punishing her, it's imprisoning you." She didn't like that answer. But 6 months later, she told me, "I finally understood. My mother will never be who I needed her to be. But I can be that for myself now. I can give myself the acceptance I was waiting for." That's the shift. From victim to creator, from reaction to response, from waiting to acting. And here's what's beautiful. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes. Your subconscious mind is like a muscle. The more you train it to look for evidence of your good fortune, the stronger that capacity becomes. I've watched people transform their entire experience of reality in a matter of weeks, simply by changing what they choose to notice. A woman came to me once, drowning in financial worry. Bills piling up, creditors calling. She was convinced the universe had abandoned her. I gave her one assignment. Find 3 pieces of evidence every day that money flows to you easily. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "But Florence, there is no money flowing to me." "Then find the evidence that's preparing to flow." I told her. A coin on the sidewalk, an unexpected discount, a bill that's lower than expected. Train your mind to see the current, not just the drought. She did it, reluctantly at first, found a quarter, got a free coffee when the barista made an extra by mistake, discovered she'd overpaid her insurance, and was due a small refund. Small things, tiny things. But within 3 weeks, something shifted. A client she'd forgotten about paid an old invoice. A side opportunity appeared out of nowhere. Her tax refund came earlier than expected. Within 2 months, her financial situation had completely turned around. Did the universe suddenly decide to favor her? No. She changed the frequency she was broadcasting. She stopped affirming lack and started affirming flow. And the universe, as it always does, matched her energy. This is the mechanics of manifestation that most people miss. They think it's about vision boards and wishful thinking. It's not. It's about becoming a vibrational match for what you desire, by choosing moment by moment, thought by thought, to align with the reality you want to experience. Your subconscious is listening to every word you speak, every thought you think, every story you tell about your life. Make sure you're telling the story of the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. Because, darling, you're not who you were yesterday. You're not even who you were this morning. Every moment is a new opportunity to choose differently, to think differently, to be differently.